Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of In the Prog Seat, our Tuesday night special here on Sea of Tranquility. We are continuing on with our favorite bands by letter of the alphabet. We have arrived at the letter C, right? Or actually, probably this way, right? Yeah, based on how we're looking in the Zoom. So before we get to our three favorite bands, each that begin with C, let's introduce the crew. We've got all the way from Scotland, Mr. Stephen Reed. Via Chicago, George Lemie. From Pennsylvania, we got our Pennsylvania duo here. We got Chad Hutchinson in the center square and Anthony Ferraro. We've got my fellow New Yorker, Mr. Eric Porter, and the professor of Prague representing New Jersey today, Ken Golden. Greetings, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You ready to talk about C bands?
Yeah.
Some of these may be A bands as far as stature, but they're the letter C. So, we're going to go one at a time for the first three times around. Then we'll do some honorable mentions like we've been doing the first couple of weeks. So we'll go in the same order. Actually, no, we're going to have Mr. Golden go first today. You always seem to be right up top next to me going last. So I'm going to change it around. So we're going to go Ken, Eric, George, Chad, Anthony, Stephen, and myself, and we'll go round and round until we get to number three. So
I hate going first, but you asked so nicely.
I'm always nice, Ken.
Yeah, that's true. You are.
I am.
All right, so I'm gonna start something new because there's some bands I don't want to talk about because we talk about them all the time. So the Ken Golden Hall of Fame. Two bands are going in the Ken Golden Hall of Fame tonight: Camel and Caravan. So I'll let anybody else have your way with them, but I will not mention them because they're in the Mount Rushmore. They're up there, for me. So the first band I wanted to talk about, this is the only CD I'm going to hold up, is Cynic. Cynic Traced in Air is my favorite Cynic album, and Cynic was a very important band. They were one of the first technical death metal bands. Sort of an offshoot, in a sense, of the band Death. They emerged from the Florida scene where there were a lot of death metal bands that came out of Florida, out of Tampa. It was started by Paul Masvidal and Sean Reinert. Sean Reinert had been playing drums in Death, and Masvidal also played in Death. And they were extremely, extremely progressive. There was a jazz fusion rhythmic element to their music. They're considered to be one of the first technical metal bands. Their first actual album, there were a lot of demos, but the first actual album was called Focus, came out on Roadrunner, I guess in 93. Sean Malone playing bass. You had Sean Reinert on drums, Jason Goebel on guitar, and Paul Masvidal on guitar. And if I remember, I think it was Tony Teagarden was doing keyboards and some the Death vocals when they were touring. The album didn't sell incredibly well, but it was a very, very influential album. And they broke up in 94, and then they got back together, basically 15 years later, and then they made this Traced in Air album. And it was, to my ears, it was an actual improvement over Focus, which, Focus is a classic. But I really hold Traced in Air in very high regards because the vocals are cleaner. There are some of the Death vocals, but it's not as overt as on Focus. They do the vocal processing. It's there. Jason Goebel isn't on the album. Instead, Timon Krudener is playing guitar. He was in a band called Exevious, which was since broken up. Exevious were basically like an instrumental version of Cynic. And so he was a perfect fit. And the playing is just insane, particularly from the two Seans. And got to see them play live, and they lived up to it, man. They were great. And Cynic, very important band. Hey, Chuck.
What's up, Chuck?
Greetings, guys.
Chuck.
Is that your Mets? Oh, he's got the Mets uniform on.
Of course he does. Come on.
So anyway, Cynic is what I got.
Yeah, great choice. That was one of the great comeback albums of the last 25 years.
nobody had any expectations that record was going to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
Especially because, the thing is, after Cynic broke up, then they became Portal, became a totally different kind of a band.
Yeah.
So,
So. All right, Eric.
Hey, my number 3, I have George to thank for this band, Cab. And that is made up of Dennis Chambers, Tony McAlpine, Brian Auger, I think, is not on the first, if I'm correct, but he is on 2 and 4, or maybe going in from there. And Bunny Brunell is the bass player. George introduced me to these guys about a year ago, I think, and to have them jump on my list, they're just explosive, ferocious band, great players. McAlpine blows me away. Just listening to this, I actually prefer 2 to the first one. This is probably my favorite. I think, what is it, 2009, George, was the last thing they released, a live CD. But just an extremely powerful, this is the kind of stuff I've really been going for. Very aggressive, great playing, a lot of guitar. Go check them out. I mean, I really don't know what else to say. They're just fantastic, great players all around, and go get it, Cab.
Great choice, great band. Speaking of George, he's up next.
Number 3 is bass player Alain Caron. Spent the 80s in probably Canada's best known fusion band, Uzeb. They had disagreements within the ranks, so he breaks off solo in the early 90s, and he's got 10 albums now, 8 studio albums, 2 lives. It's funk fusion, upbeat, at least for the first 3. Then he started getting a little smooth and slick for a couple albums. The recent ones, he's kind of back on track. He always gets great players around him, and just real solid funk fusion stuff. So check it out, Alain Caron.
Cool. Chad.
All right, my number 3 for tonight is a band to be very, very familiar to our good friend Luis, who is not here tonight, and that is Cabezas de Cera from Mexico.
Nice.
Amazing 3-piece band. That's the live album and CD they put out from their Nearfest performance. Highly recommended. CDC Live USA. Mauricio Sotelo, Ramses Luna, Francisco Sotelo, amazing trio. Mauricio, I believe, makes a lot of his custom stringed instruments, makes sounds that you've never heard before. Just really wild stuff, very passionate. These guys are amazing on stage with lots of energy. They have 5 studio albums, but this live album is just spectacular. So Cabezas de Cera, number 3.
Cabeza de Cera.
Good pick. Anthony.
All right, fellas, you're gonna have to drink. My first pick for C is I'm going with Curved Air. Their album Air Cut from 1973. The man, the myth, the legend, Eddie Jobson's first album at the prime age of 18 years old. He replaced Darrowway, who went to form his own band with John Etheridge from later Soft Machine. What can I say? The band is also led by Sandra Cristina, who later recruited her husband, Stuart Copeland, who played on a couple albums with them. So I'm going with Curved Air. Air Cut was the one I picked. Jobson's lone track that he wrote, The Metamorphosis, is just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going with Curved Air as my number 1 for C.
Okay.
He was in that band for what, about 28 minutes? Is that right?
I've had that CD since it was released in 2006.
No, you missed my joke. I said he was in that band for about 28 minutes, right?
Joke.
I didn't realize.
Was he in the band a year even? I don't even remember.
Yeah, he did
I don't
it
think
with
so.
Roxy Music.
I didn't realize that Stuart Copeland was married to Sonia Christina.
Yeah.
We're children together.
I did not know that.
Yes. Lucky guy.
Yeah. All right, where are we at? Stephen.
Okay, so we are 3 letters in, and it's pretty obvious that I like UK neoprog. So let's continue that theme. And I have got covering the band name. Credo.
Rito. Oh, wow.
I saw those guys.
Okay, that's better than I have. I've never seen them. So they formed back in 1993. It's 11 years since this album. That was their most recent, their third album. They are still on the go though. And as I say, they've only put out 3 albums. 2 of those, to me, Rhetoric and Against Reason, fall into the excellent category. I really like this album. It's an absolute neoprog monster. Great keyboards on it. Great song structures. It's really melodic, quite accessible. There's quite a lot of arena about the band in terms of their sound. Mark Colton is their singer. Really good, an excellent storyteller, really rich voice. And just long be one of my favourites. And I would really like to see something new from them. If anyone that's anything to do with them was watching, hurry up, come on, we need some more. So yeah, there's lots of good neoprog out there, but I would suggest that Credo are one of the more undersung bands that really do deliver the goods. So that's my first pick for the show.
Weren't they on either Giant Electric P or Griffin Music back like in the first?
It was like Griffin or Cyclops.
Cyclops, yeah.
Right back at the start of
They
it.
played. They played at Rossfest. I think I had a hot dog with Mark after the
Okay.
show or across the street in the deli. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, good band.
It's
I
good.
like that name, Credo.
Yeah. All right, Chuck.
Oh man, I'm sorry guys, a little late. I got home late from work, but anyway, I was very happy to do this one over here. My number 3 is Caravan. That's my number 1, my number 3 band. What's the album that I was going to pick was Live at the Fairfield Halls. You know, which is just one of those amazing live albums from a band that was probably one of the best, if not the best, Canterbury band of their era. Just amazing musicianship with that band. My number 3, Caravan, Live at the Fairfield Halls. Caravan.
Cool.
There's the version of For Richard on that album.
That's amazing.
Unreal.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Unreal.
that's such a great song.
Yeah. It's
It's a
just
great song.
amazing.
Amazing.
All right, my number 3 is a band that I guess you can call them prog. I guess you can call them psychedelic rock. Some people have called them one of the first progressive metal bands and one of the stoner rock bands. I don't know, whatever you want to call them. I call them great. The band is Captain Beyond,
Nice.
self-titled debut, kind of a super group. Rod Evans, formerly of Deep Purple. Lee Doran from Iron Butterfly. Rhino Reinhardt, also from Iron Butterfly, and Bobby Caldwell from Johnny Winter Band. This is an absolute monster album. Unfortunately, they were never able to equal this album. The second album, which also had pretty much the same lineup, is really different than this, more of kind of like a Santana vibe. And then Evans left and they released the third album, which actually is pretty good, just like a kind of like a hard rock album. But this has got a little bit of everything, complex time signatures, long tracks, great guitar work, lots of really intricate playing. It's heavy. Evans sounds amazing on it. I think for everybody who kind of hoped that Evans would evolve as a singer when he was with Deep Purple, instead he sang a lot of that kind of early artsy psychedelic pop music that Purple were doing early on. His, I think, true rock edge comes out on this album quite a bit. So yeah, love this album. That's my number 3. Captain Beyond.
Pete, when Rod Evans left, was he ever heard from again?
He was only heard of briefly when Deep Purple were broken up, like in 1980, and some promoter put together like this fake Deep Purple lineup, including him and a bunch of other people that nobody even remembers, and they billed themselves as Deep Purple went out and tour, and they got sued and cease and desist, and you never heard from the guy ever again.
Got sued into oblivion.
Into oblivion. Yeah, he didn't even show up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame gig a couple years ago. Nothing.
I think they played in Staten Island. That was about it.
One gig. Yeah, they did
Something like that. Yeah, they got sued.
Yeah, I think he was probably like, well, because he didn't do anything after Captain Beyond till then.
Oh.
So they must have thrown a good amount of money at him. Because I thought he went into healthcare or something like that, and that's what he's like, a doctor or something like that. But maybe he's under a different name. Nobody's heard from him in like 40 years. So
So he just pretty much quit the music business.
quit the music business and just like went underground, because nobody knows where he is. If he's even still alive, nobody knows.
Sounds like John Sykes.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Did John Sykes really like disappear?
No, he's around. He just refuses to release anything. Yeah,
Yeah, and he
Been
just.
talking about him for quite some time.
yeah. No. All right, Ken, back to you.
Oh, all right. My second band, I'm not doing these in any real order. My second band is a little bit on the obscure side. It's a French band. I don't think we really talk enough about the French bands. And this band I got a couple albums by this band, Carpe Diem.
Oh, yeah.
And here's this is the first one in
Yep.
Regardon. And here's the second one with this big ugly sound sticker, price sticker on it. So they made two albums in 75 and then 77. First one came out on Arcane, which became the crypto label, which was run by Ange's manager. They have a very sort of dark, ominous sound, which is kind of characteristic, I find, of a lot of the crypto bands, the prog bands at least, Metabolism, Pentacle, Wapasu. They all have this sort of sinister quality. Carpe Diem's two albums they're beautiful. This first one, this is my preference. The second one maybe ranks a little higher. I like this one. It's got just 4 long tracks. There's some vocals, but it's almost all instrumental, really. It's kind of like Camel in places, but it has this sort of spacey quality to it, a little bit like Pulsar. You guys remember Pulsar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it got a little bit of that, and it also has kind of like a little bit of like a soft machine jazz rock thing going on in places. Great band. We never talk about. Nobody ever talks about them. Like I said, I don't think we talk about the French bands enough. I think they kind of get overlooked. Just why, I don't know. So
Well,
a lot of great.
We might have to rectify that and do a French prog episode then at some point.
I'm down with it, man, because I there were lots of great
I've
French.
had lots of people ask us to do like a French prog, a German prog, and a Japanese prog episode mainly.
I'm down. Anytime you want to do that, man, I'll bang it out.
Cool.
German I can do, the other two, not so much.
Well, the Japanese scene was interesting because for a period of time, like in the 80s, man, there were bands popping up like weeds. And there was some great bands. Mugen was a great band. Pale Acute Moon. There were a lot of them.
We'll get there. That's a good pick. Good pick. Carpe Diem. All right. Back to where are we? Eric.
My number 2, I'm fortunate where I live. There's a jazz club in Schenectady, New York, called the Van Dyke that I believe opened in the 40s. They've had a number of artists come through there. Obviously, back in the old days, I think when you read about it, Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk. So they had and it's a tiny club. They had all, of its day. Kind of went downhill, had a renaissance in the 90s. It's still open, but they're not really booking acts anymore. And I was lucky enough, I had a buddy who was into jazz. We saw McCoy Tyner. So we saw a number of acts, and this act, Georgia Shirt, we saw Chick Corea solo. And at the time, he was trying to get me into listening to more jazz and jazz fusion and things like that. So my number 2 is going to be Chick Corea. Getting to see him solo, it's the only time I ever saw him live. But he was amazing. His interaction with the audience, very personable, even came out after the show. It's like I said, it's a very small, intimate club. And now George has been obviously influencing me. So I've been listening to a lot. I mean, this guy, how prolific can you be? He's collaborated with a number of artists. He's got the acoustic band, the electric band, sadly passed away last year. But I mean, obviously Return to Forever, if you want to go there. What can you say about him? I mean, he's just, that would be Hall of Fame, Ken, if you're throwing your Hall of Fame around. But that's my number 2. Go ahead.
You could put him in my Hall of Fame.
Therefore,
I'll lend it to you, Eric.
Ken Hall of Fame. I like it. So, but I'm going with and kind of what I've been listening to, and this had that 80s vibe to me kind of when I started listening, but I've been listening to more of the electric band recently. There's just so much there. You could pick any number of things to listen to from him, but that is my number 2, Chick Corea.
Eric, if the only thing I'm going to say, you're welcome to put him in my Hall of Fame, but it's a non-denominational Hall of Fame. So
Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind.
Eric, I will say the Electric Band is one of the most incredible bands I've ever seen live.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing band.
never got to see them.
3 times, and oof, man,
I've seen them twice.
so good. Yeah, Chick is very missed. George, who you got next?
Number 2 is from Australia, Caligula's Horse. This is prog metal with touches of alternative and a little bit of gent, driven by emotional melodic singer Jim Gray. He really gets to a lot of people. The guitar player is very good also. He's the leader, Sam Ballin. Just a real one of the leading lights of the prog metal scene, I would say. Top 3 or 4 bands that are around right now. So, and their Inside Out band was probably the popular prog label right now. So Caligula's Horse, 5 albums.
Good choice.
Excellent album.
I think Jim's the best metal vocalist around.
There's a case to be made, no doubt.
He's got the voice.
All right, back to our center square, Chad.
All right, my number 2. I think I'm going to hit Stephen right in the old heartstrings with this one. I'm going neoprog over here, and my number 2 is Poland's Collage. For
Beautiful.
me, this album Moonshine is one of the best neoprog albums out there. It's lush, it's powerful, it's got bass pedals coming out your ass. The band put out 4 albums in the early to mid 90s. The first ones, I believe, were in Polish and a little harder to listen to. The compositions just weren't as good. Moonshine is fantastic. The one after it, Safe, is quite good. We actually invited them to Nearfest to perform in 2004. We got for Nearfest 2004. We got an email back that they were in, and we said, all right, we're going to give us an address. We're going to send you a contract to read over, whatever. And it was crickets. Well, we found out soon after that they broke up. So they disbanded sometime in 2003 and got back together about 10 years later. Some of the guys went off and did Satellite, a couple albums. And apparently they got back together about 10 years later, and they put an album out this year called, geez, I just looked it up. I don't know it. I haven't heard it. Called Over and Out. And I don't know anything about it. Ken, I don't know if you've heard it or heard of it.
I haven't heard it. I don't know that it's actually out. It may have just come out, or it's about to come out.
Yeah, I'd be curious because I really like the last 2 they put out. And yeah, if you like neoprog, you owe yourself to check out Collage. This is an absolute gem of a neoprog album. Collage, the Moonshine album.
What was really cool about them, they had Zlatoslav Beksinski do all their covers. They did their album covers.
Yeah, the artwork on this one and on Safe is very, very cool.
If you guys come visit, you'll see an original painting by Beksinski.
You guys are in for a treat when you see Ken's artwork. Oh boy.
Wow, cool.
Oh boy.
That's a great album. Great album. Anthony.
All right, well, I'm going to take one from Ken's Hall of Fame. I'm going with Caravan for Girls Who Go Plump in the Night from 1973. It's one of my favorites, even though Sinclair had just left to form Hatfield in the North. Pi Hastings takes over on the vocals, and I don't think they miss a beat. I think they became a little more proggier and less Canterbury-ish, especially on tracks like A Hunting We Shall Go and Memory Lane Who Had Lost. So I'm going with Caravan. Their album for Girls Who Go Plump in the Night from 1973 is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a good album. Can't really go wrong with their first, 5 albums or so.
And that was great about them. They kept changing lineups.
Yeah.
But they kept making great albums.
Yeah, and it always sounded like Caravan, right?
Yeah.
I have never gotten into Caravan.
No?
Oh man.
don't know why.
I got into them late, but I really enjoy them now.
Saturday we'll listen to 9 Feet Underground. You'll enjoy it.
No, I've heard that song. I like that. What's the other one? For Richard?
For Richard. Oh, I'll play the live for Richard. It's
Those songs are great.
spectacular. Yeah, those are
Kind
great.
of the silly Canterbury stuff for a while. After a while, it gets on me. So,
Well, you listen, the stuff, the Richard Sinclair vocals like Golf Girl and stuff like
yeah,
that.
right, exactly.
Little quirky. It's got a little little more lineage to like Soft Machine, early Soft Machine, Wildflowers, that kind of thing. That's true Canterbury.
All right, Stephen.
Okay, so my next choice is a band that myself and Chuck did an album ranking show for not all that long ago, and that is Cardiacs. I think we decided that the best way to describe their music was it's pretty indescribable. It's actually tying down what they do is really difficult. I think one of the descriptions that I used was that it's like they're attacking you with their music, but you say thank you very much for it. It's really uncompromising stuff. There's punk and there's prog, which leaves you to that horrible word of prog. There's avant-garde. Cardiacs fell into all of these categories and more. There's a real playfulness about it too, though. It's really serious music, but it makes you smile because it's just ridiculous. It's incredibly tight. They revolved around the much missed Tim Smith. I don't think they released an album that is less than captivating. That includes compilations, archival releases, really everything about them. And if you like music that just doesn't really live by kind of normal conventions, but still has hooks and it can snag your ear, and it can draw you in, and I would say Cardiacs are for you, but you have to persevere a little bit. Initially, you're kind of like, whoa. Once you get past that, and you will get past that, or you might not, they're absolutely fantastic. So my favourite is really catchy album titles like A Little Man and a House and The Whole World Window from 1988. That's my favourite. But really, I would suggest go back and watch the album ranking if that sounds of interest, because the whole catalogue is pretty much fantastic.
Have you ever seen the video that they shot for Eat It Up Worms Hero? The four of them are like jammed in a tiny room. It's hysterical. I don't know how they got all that equipment in one room. It's awesome.
It's brilliant. Yeah, inspired stuff. It kind of sums them up in many ways. Amazing and daft all at the same time.
And none of the four of them look happy the entire time.
No,
Great.
Oh, I mean, I've chosen one that doesn't actually have there's no pictures of the band on them, but the pictures of the bands on the CDs, there's not a smile amongst them, or if it is, it's like.
They're pretty sinister looking on Sing to God.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
They look a little warped on that cover.
Yeah, very much so. Great band.
All right, Chuck.
All right, my number two, going back to the UK, one of my favorite bands of all time, Camel, and it's going to be Moon Madness. Moon Madness, Moon Madness. Just 7 great songs on a great album from a great band that they just just sadly just was one of those bands as influential as they are, and so you would wish that more people had known more about them. I love Camel, man. They're my number 2, man. And the album, we can go with like the first 5-6 albums or so, but it's always going to be Moon Madness for me.
Great pick. Another Hall of Fame pick, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're in my Hall of Fame.
There you go. There you go. All right. This particular band from New York, I absolutely love this album, their debut album. They didn't release another album until many, 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 many years later. But to me, this is one of like the undiscovered gems of the 70s, and one of the true classic US prog albums of all time. The band is Cathedral, Stained Glass Stories. This is a magical album. A magical album. And I want to show everybody, this is a Greg Walker put this one out, symphonic label, but just like get a load of that like stage show there. How these guys weren't like, more well known is just absolutely bonkers. If you can imagine like Peter Gabriel era Genesis, Gentle Giant, maybe a little Yes. I don't know, Ken, who else would you throw in there?
There's a little bit of Gentle Giant. There's a little Gentle Giant in there, particularly on one of the tunes. He kind of sounds a little bit like Shulman.
Yeah, like a little bit. I mean, tons of great keyboards, electric and acoustic guitar, Rickenbacker bass, the whole 9 yards, Moog and Mellotron and Hammond, it's all here, and just really cool vocals. It's just a hauntingly beautiful album, rocks and spots. I just love it. I remember the first time I heard this, I was like, wow, how were these guys not huge? Cathedral, Stained Glass Stories, not to be confused with the British doom metal band Cathedral, who are also pretty damn great as well. So
that was going to be my next choice. So you stole it from me. So I'm going to kick your ass on Saturday. And so I just want to elaborate on it a little bit if I can. So I grew up in Queens in the 70s, and I used to go out to the clubs on Long Island. There used to be a lot of cover bands, and a lot of prog cover bands that would also throw in original material. It was Rat Race Choir.
Yeah.
It was Harlequin. I used to go see a band called Spectrum. They had this singer called Tom O'Connor, and he would mimic John Anderson or Peter Gabriel, whatever. And I'm pretty certain that Cathedral was part of that group of bands. I never got to see them, so I don't know how often they played out. But what I wanted to say was, Greg did a great job with it. So the CD, he had Bobcats do the mastering from the original master tapes. For some reason, when he did the vinyl, he changed the artwork. So the artwork, I don't like the artwork of this. But it's a poster. That's why it's falling apart. So anyway, if anybody's looking for the vinyl, the original is like $300 to $500.
Wow.
This is like $30, and he did a really good job. So the reissue sounds great. So
You know why the cover was changed, Ken?
I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, it's not like this thing is anything stunning,
no, but
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't. You'd have to ask Greg. I really don't know why. He did. He really did do a nice job, and they're totally unoriginal. The music's completely unoriginal.
yeah,
but it's
great.
It's everything you like in prog rock, and they stole from the best. So So anyway, so I'm glad I have a backup. I didn't do much research, but I could just riff on it. Celeste.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Nice. French.
So yeah, Celeste was an Italian band. For a long time, they were kind of like a one and done band. They were a bit untypical of the Italian bands. It's very laid back. It's very acoustic driven, very melodic. And if you like Mellotron, man, this is the album for you, because this thing is just loaded with Mellotron. And it's just like, yeah, it's just one of those albums, just very refined. It's not like crazy dynamics. If you think about maybe like the really nice acoustic parts on like the first couple of PFM albums, something like that, it's really, really good. And then, they did that one album, and then they got back together many, many years later. And Ciro Perino, who's the main guy in the band, he made some really nice albums, including, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, he came out, look who's here. He came out with a very, very good album, also under the name of Celeste. So this is my fill-in. Pete.
Great feeling. Weepy romantic Italian prog, and I will say that the two they've released in the last couple of years are great as well.
They're really good.
Similar, yeah. It's a great pick. Great pick.
Hey, Luis.
Thanks for
What's
joining.
going on? I'm so sorry, man. You picked that one?
I picked that for you.
All right, then I won't pick that one. I actually had that.
Lewis, you want to get caught up and give us your first two picks real quick?
Yes, I'm sorry that I'm late. I had to
I was late too.
take my mother-in-law to the airport. It's a long story, but now she's gone. Anyway, all right. So my number 3 is a record that I listen to all the time, that I love. I got this from Steve Feigenbaum. This is a group called Chrome Hoof. I don't know if you guys know it, but I really, the album is called Chrome Black Gold, and I really, really, really love this record. So this would be my number 3.
What kind
And-
of stuff is it, Luis?
What
What was that?
What kind of music?
It is, it's like a mixture of it's proggy, but it also has a lot of electronic music in it. It even has a little bit of on occasion, these crazy dance beats, but then they go into crazy fuzzed out bass tones and crazy jams. This stuff is like if you had a space rock party in hell, this would be the soundtrack.
You got to watch their videos. Their videos are pretty cool.
I love these guys. They're a British band. They're on cuneiform, and I would highly recommend, if you've never heard them, give these guys a shot. Like I go to this record all the time.
You don't have to pimp Steve so much. He's sleeping right now.
Oh, I understand, but nonetheless, and of course, my number 2 would be a band that I've talked about before. They're from New York. It's a trio. It's Consider the Source. This is guitar, fretless and fretted, bass and bass pedals and drums, and this is just World War Trio parts 2 and 3. There's also part 1. This record is it's fusion, but it's not jazz fusion. It's more like prog and world music fusion. And they tour a lot in the States, so it's not difficult to go catch a show. If you've never seen them, you can't go wrong with these guys. Gabriel Marin is the guitarist. He was a student of Bumblefoot, and he's incredible. Everybody in the band is great. Like the drummer is great, but nobody talks about him because the other 2 guys are so impressive. So these would be my first 2.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, where were we? Eric.
All right, my number 1, Ken, this is in your Hall of Fame and it's in my Hall of Fame. I'm going with Camel. I have to pick them, whether it's obvious or not. They're one of my favorite bands, period, regardless of the letter. I guess with Camel, for me, Andy Latimer, guitar, that's the draw. They've been through a number of lineup changes over the years. I think once they got past Snow Goose is when things started to get mixed up. Sinclair came in and played with them for a while. They've had a number of keyboard players, Kit Watkins from Happy the Man. I think the 80s, they kind of got a little poppier, but I still like those 80s albums. And then in the 90s, they kind of had a silent period into the 80s a bit, came back in the 90s. I think Mickey Simmons, Foss Patterson, again, a number of keyboard players. In this album, you don't hear much. I think their last studio album, A Nod and a Wink, was Guy LeBlanc, and Dennis Clement was the drummer. I think they were from Nathan
right.
Mall or
Nathan Mall.
This is a great record, and I don't hear people talk about this much.
It's a great album.
Maybe it's just me. I love A Nod and a Wink. I'm kind of sad that's the last thing they've ever done. I think 2002. And Chad, I've said this to you before. Thank you so much because you gave me the only opportunity to see this band.
My pleasure.
Um,
There was a bonus track on a Japanese version of that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's called After All These Years. And back in, was it 2005? I put out the Hurricane Katrina album.
I have that
And-
after the
and
storm. Right?
Camel gave us that track to put on the compilation, which was very cool.
I have After the Storm, right?
Yeah, it's on that.
I know I have it. So brain fart, but
Well, when you're done, you can go take the tree.
I'm gonna go pull that out. Absolutely. So that's my number 1, and they're not just a C band; they're a top band for me, regardless. So I love Camel.
Can I be a naysayer for a moment?
When are you not?
I love Camel. Great band, but for me, there was. I think Barden's was a very important part of that band, and when he left, I think a little something was lost. I love Rain Dances, and great when Richard Sinclair was in the band. I like Newt. I'm not a huge fan of those last few albums, Dust and Dreams and they're okay, they're fine. But for me, there was something about the collaboration between Latimer and Barden's. That's where the real magic was. After that, it was all great. It's fine. Love them. But for me, those, up everything through Moon Madness, that's the real special period.
Magical lineup.
The original lineup. Yep.
I do think those last 2 are good. I think Ray Jazz is pretty good, and I think A Nod and the Wink's great.
I agree.
I think Andy needed someone to kick his ass a little bit, not his wife.
Took the words out of my mouth. She was tough, but she was nice to us. I will say that.
All right, George.
Okay. I'll take this from Porter, but he took it from me. So
I stole it from you.
Cab, like he said, it's quartet fusion. Bunny Brunel, Tony McAlpine, and Dennis Chambers, and then rotating keyboardists McAlpine, Brian Auger, Patrice Rushen played on a couple of them. This is the last of the 4 studio albums. Dennis Chambers left. So that how do you replace Dennis Chambers? It was a worrisome prospect. They got Virgil Donati. Didn't sound like a good fit, but he's actually not that Virgil-y on this. He's more trying to fit the music and not doing his Virgil thing. Real good. The 2 live albums, for whatever reason, don't rub me the right way, but the 4 studio albums are all 4.5 or 5 stars for me. So Cab.
Very cool. All right, Chad.
All right, we're gonna go right back to it, and we're gonna go back to the Hall of Fame with Camel. All right. Notice we all picked a different album. Just a real quick Camel story about them from Nearfest 2003. They were doing their sound check, and I was standing out in the hall in Trenton with Jim Patulski of Inside Out Music America, and we're just talking, whatever. And Rob is up on, he's on the stage while they're doing the sound check, but he's in the back against the curtain. Oh no, that's not true. He was about stage right, kind of to the front. And all of a sudden they go into a song and Rob collapses. He collapses straight down on the stage, Indian style, hands in his head, just sobbing. And I turned to Jim and said, "What the fuck just happened? What's wrong with Rob?" They started playing Hymn to Her, and he was so moved by the song that he just collapsed in tears. It was a pretty emotional, pretty amazing moment. So there you go. There's the Rob LaDuca collapsed Camel story.
Hey, Chad, the other Nearfest story, I don't know where I heard it. Did you have to move him from
Yes, we
the
did.
hotel?
Yes, we did. Luis, were you part of that?
I was directly responsible for him
Okay,
having to
so-
move.
Yeah. So what happened was in Trenton, we had there was a brand new hotel right next door to the
The
War.
Marriott, right? Was right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
which was very convenient.
Yes.
So there was a big old party in a room sometime late at night, and the Camel crew came in late, as we knew. And Andy Latimer goes to check into his room, and unfortunately, he is directly underneath the party room. They cannot get settled. They won't get quiet.
Oh, no.
And they said, "Get us out of here now. We can't deal with this." We had to move them to another hotel somewhere else. It was not-
I do have one thing to say about this story. Having been directly responsible, along with the guys at Alamalman Vassarat,
Mhm.
and Daniel Gildenlau, and Jeff Laramie, and several other culprits, including some Trenton police officers who were also partying with us. And this is that we were never contacted by the hotel.
No, but
So-
Rob came in, correct?
Oh, yeah. So by the time that Rob came in, we had finally made the human pyramid.
Yep.
The guy with the beard from Alamam and Vassar had made it to the top. He had been yelling like a Viking. He fell. He cut his head open. He was laughing. I was laughing. And I was in such a state of disrepair from the alcohol and the other stuff I was on, that when Rob came in, I saw an angry Teletubby yelling at people to break the party. And I was so confused as to why they were listening to the Teletubby. Like, why are you listening to this Teletubby? Because I was looking at a Teletubby. It was really strange. Mike Potter was there. Several people were there. It was a great party. But we were never told by anyone to shut up until Rob showed up.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the fuse on Susan and Andy were pretty small or short because of
Yeah.
we got in late and they retired, and they were just having none of it. And then they contacted Rob, and Rob is a huge Camel fan, was being very protective, and
No, of course.
he went-
And you know,
and he went ballistic. He went full Teletubby on you.
yes, he did. It was really something, I have to say.
Chad, where'd you book them? The Motel
You know what?
Six?
Rob took care of that. I didn't know about it until the next day.
Yeah.
So I think it may have been back in somewhere in Pennsylvania, actually, if I remember.
Over the bridge.
Yeah, back over the bridge.
it was an epic party though. I will tell you guys all about it in detail later. We won't hijack the program, but let me tell you, it was one hell of a party.
A lot of great parties those Nearfest weekends. Woo.
Oh yeah.
You know, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right, Anthony.
I'm not really, this isn't a surprise. Going with Camel. Going with Camel is my number one. One thing that has not been said is I discovered this band too late, 2005, 2006. So of course I wasn't able to see them. But Andy Latimer for me scratches that David Gilmour itch. It's like that same kind of tone. It's just so beautiful, so atmospheric. And Ken is right. Barnes was a fantastic keyboard player. Those first 4 or 5 Camel albums with a classic lineup are pure gold. So I'm going with Camel as my number one for the C. And Mirage was probably my favorite.
Cool. Steven.
That's my favorite.
Well, really, I thought I'd been reasonably smart because I had backups for my number one. I've got a few honourable mentions, but there was only another 2 ones that I thought, yeah, I can bring them into the top 3 if I want to. They were Captain Beyond and Collage. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. So I too will also go for Camel then, and I brought 2 albums because I just can't separate them. So I could have brought other ones too. I've never seen them, but I will be seeing them next year on their 50th anniversary tour. Very much looking forward to it.
Nice.
So yes, Camel for me as well.
Hey, it just reinforces how good they are, Stephen. No worries about
it's-
repeats.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
who I wanted to go with anyway, but I did have a couple to swap out because I do like to try and mix it up, but they were my number one choice anyway.
Chuck.
All right.
My number one, it's probably kind of obvious actually. It's going to be Can. Can is my number one band from this era. I could pick any of their albums from like their first 6 or 7 albums, but I'm always going to pick Future Days. It's just one of those amazing bands. From that generation that was just a little bit ahead of their peers, man. Probably even, in my opinion, I like them a bit more than Tangerine Dream and Kraftwerk. And Klaus Schultz, was a lot of great bands from that era. But it always will be Can. That's my number one.
For my money, this is the best album I ever heard of theirs. This is great.
Yes, that is my favorite too, actually.
So
and
good.
I think I have to thank Anthony for that. I think that was something he sent me.
That is correct. But it's so unlike a lot of their other stuff, and I think that's why I like it so much. Yeah.
That is a great record.
Oh, it's awesome. Great album. All right, Lewis, you're number one.
Well, for me, my favorite C letter band that is not Camel is going to be Cynic. And this album in particular is about as good as prog metal can get, in my opinion. I mean, just with a kickoff track of Veil of Maya, that's already worth the price of the CD, whatever they're charging. And this particular version, which is the second one I bought because my first one was lost, has a whole bunch of bonus tracks. But this record, Focus, would be where I would recommend people to hear it. I mean, Sean Malone is a genius bass player, and Sean Reinert in the drums, and then everything, the interplay. It is a fantastic prog metal album that doesn't sound like Dream Theater.
Nope.
And this is really, really, really good stuff. So for my number one, it could be nothing but Cynic. I absolutely love these guys, and I love this record in particular.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of them.
No, you showed up late.
That was
Yeah.
his first pick.
This is the first one I mentioned.
There you go. So yeah.
Meanwhile, Steven is salivating over that fluorescent green hype sticker on that CD.
This one here. This is not a sticker. This is actually printed. You see, it's a cardboard sleeve.
Yeah.
Oh,
You see, that's the problem then, because the hype sticker, I'm all about the hype sticker. The slipcase.
This is
I'm
going to
not
be
about the slipcase.
that's going to be a disappointment for you, surely. But nonetheless, the music is what I care about. The sticker.
There's no need for anything where you pick it up, hold it like this, and the CD can just fall out the bottom. There is no need for it whatsoever.
I agree that this cardboard sleeve is highly idiotic. and unjustifiable. I agree completely. But
Unless it's completely different artwork than what you get in the inside.
Right.
then why? Yeah, but then it's still maybe make it a poster.
The worst is when they
What are you gonna
take
do
the
with the
hype
poster?
sticker and then the hype sticker is printed on the cart, like on the booklet.
Yeah,
That's the worst.
yeah. No good.
I agree with that, to be fair. If you're going to do, Ken will know all the technical terms, right? And I'll try and keep it that way so I don't show honorable mentions. If you're going to put a sleeve on it, have one that's got an end. So at least
That's an O card.
that's an OK, that's right. There you go. So there's no need for this whatsoever. No need for it.
I
Don't do
agree.
that. Anyone-
This is
Ken, what's this
highly.
called?
Magic trick. It's kind of like an obi.
It's called garbage. You take it off and you put it in the trash.
Sort of like a
I
Japanese
can't
obi.
throw it out.
Mine doesn't have it because it's long been placed where it belongs.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese obi.
Nah, see, I'm with
throw it
that. I
out.
need to keep it. I would need to keep it, but what's its purpose?
None.
I was watching, I don't know what the hell I was watching a couple days ago. I saw some video or something somewhere where there's some Facebook page and some guy who collects CDs and Blu-rays and whatnot. He also hates the slip cases and all this kind of stuff, but he refused to get rid of them because he goes, people actually pay money for these things. So what he does is when he buys them, he takes them off, he folds them flat, and he puts them all in like this gigantic box in his closet, and he saves them all.
Well,
I keep the J cards. They're in with the CDs.
so on the Japanese albums, it's called the OBI, right? And if an album does not have the OB, it's worth a fraction of what it is with the OB. Why? Just pure fanaticism. I mean, it's the same album, same music, same everything. It's just somebody took it and threw it away, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But, you have a certain album like this. Well, this is not a particularly rare album. It's like $100 album, but without the OB, maybe it's a $75 or $50 album. So,
Yeah, see, they tried the same thing with the CDs as well when they first came in. It's not an example, but the OB was glued on the back and then folded round the front.
Yeah.
Every time you put the CD away, all you did was bend the OB or rip
Isn't
it.
that the J card?
Well, we actually stole that. I did it. I stole it from Relapse Records. So for a period of time, all my releases on Laser's Edge and Sensory and Free Electric Sound had those top cards. And then Steve stole it from me. So and the whole thing was it was better than a sticker, hype sticker, because we could put all kinds of stuff on it and put stuff on the back, like I'd have the URL for my website on the back. And then we could put a review. We could put a lot of crap on it. And then we had the top spine on the very top. We had the barcode on the top. So it used to pop in the racks. If you remember, there was a time when you used to be able to walk into a music store and find actual CDs. And, you'd flip through and then it was just sitting there right up on top of the description. So it was a really cool thing. When I saw Relapse doing that, I'm like, I got to steal that. And it's worth more if
Yeah,
silly, but it is.
complete.
I like
That's the thing. People like things to be complete.
The thing about
Pete,
it,
I gotta
is,
say, I love your shirt.
Oh yeah, stand up.
I would rarely sell a CD that I like. And my I got my my Haken.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love
that
it.
was from the night before I went on tour. I went to see them at the Park West.
Cool.
Um,
Did they play by themselves or was that?
no, they had Symphony X.
Oh, so you got to see the double bill. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good gig there. Can anybody guess my number one?
Camel.
City Boy.
Chicago.
City Boy. Chicago too. That would be a great one. Camel. Yeah.
Camel.
It's got to be Camel, right? And this is my favorite Camel album.
That's the one.
Love Mirage. Yeah.
Lady Fantasy. That's
And I'm a big Free Fall fan as well. Love that. Yeah,
it's not a weak track.
Twister.
not at all. Great stuff. All right, yeah, let's blow through some honorable mentions. Back to Ken.
All right, I'll go through them quick. No album covers this time. From Spain, Canarios, Ciclos. great adaptation of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. I know Pete's going to back me up on this one. From Netherlands, Cargo. Great instrumental. Well, not all instrumental, but if you like Wishbone Ash, it's almost like an instrumental Wishbone Ash. Just killer twin guitar. I mentioned Celeste, Billy Cobham, Spectrum album. The skipping over the first album, but the second and third albums from Coliseum 2 with Gary Moore. Two great jazz rock albums.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah, they're really good.
Those are
Earlier
great.
stuff too.
This vocals he sings on the first. There's vocals on the first album. And it's not as good as War Dance and Electric Savage. Those are fantastic albums. I've mentioned in the past we're doing the Krautrock show, Cosmic Jokers. Those were great albums. I mentioned previously also Cosmos Factory in Old Castle, Transylvania. Cosmos Factory from Japan, great band. Also previously mentioned one of my releases, Coto Impel, Holocaust from Spain, great symphonic prog album, very dark, Crimson-esque. Another great one from Spain, Crack, Si Todo Hiciera Crack, great symphonic prog album. And a British band that made two excellent albums, highly collectible, Cressida, for the Vertigo label. It was the self-titled album, then Asylum. And there were a lot of C's. I mean, I left off Can. there was a lot of stuff that I had to pare it down, and that's some of the great ones.
Yep, great choice.
And Preet says Cressida is like the greatest record ever.
No, not the great, but they're good albums. I tell you, they were very good albums. Especially if you like that early symphonic sound. It's not really like synthesizer driven or anything. A lot of yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I like those Cressida albums a lot. Yeah. Eric, got any left?
My honorable mentions. This was one I reviewed for the site, Pete. You sent me the files. I liked it so much I bought it. It's a band from Los Angeles, Coavality, Multiple Personalities. They're a trio, great guitar and bass work, drums as well. Check them out. Really interesting, a lot of clean guitar work, but fantastic. When I am in the mood, I love guitar music. California Guitar Trio. This one is with Pat Mastrodato and Tony Levin, CG3+2. And Ken mentioned this, but I got to throw this in because I've been listening to this a lot lately as well. Billy Cobham.
Cool. George.
I got Chick Corea, 122 albums.
Prolific.
Are you gonna name them all now?
He's not you.
I think I got like 50 of them maybe. So the 122 albums, not all of them are great, but there's a lot of quality there. Cosmos Squad.
Oh yeah. Oof.
They got their roots in Ohio, but they're basically a California-based band, instrumental trio. Touches on a little bit of everything. Prog. It's mostly prog rock, but also a little bit of fusion. They run the gamut. And then Commodore, the fusion band from Venezuela, 4 albums and an EP. Pretty much impossible to get, so streamers have at it. It's all
Commodore?
Commodore, yeah.
Not Commodore.
Something else. Never heard of it.
Very obscure.
All right, Chad.
All right. So a couple that are on my list have been mentioned: Cathedral, Cressida, and California Guitar Trio. But I will put. I bought this from Ken years ago. The Tony Carnevale.
Oh yeah.
Very ELP-ish. Last track has DiGiacomo, Francesco DiGiacomo, and what's the key? It's a keyboard. Is it
Vittorio Nocenzi?
I forget now. Come on, Ken, help me out.
Oh man, I haven't played that thing in years. I don't know.
The keyboard player from Banco?
Yeah.
Vittorio Nocenzi.
It's either John or Johnny Nocenzi. There were two keys.
No, it's Rodolfo Maltese is on one of them.
Oh, the guitar player.
Yeah. And Francesco's on the last track.
And
cool ELP kind of stuff.
It was really good. He made a double album also, if I remember.
I mentioned California Guitar Trio, Connecticut band, which was at the very first Near Fest, Crucible.
Oh yeah.
All the Hells.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Nice, very Genesis sounding album.
That's a good album.
Italian band, Consorzio Acquapotente. My reflection's terrible.
Yeah.
There you go. Also known as Cap. I think they only had 2-3 albums. Nice Italian stuff with good tenor vocals and good varied keyboards. Real, if you like, the classic Italian stuff, Cap's one to check out. They're pretty good.
Sounded like Bunko. They were good. They played at Prog Day.
Right, that's where I first saw them. It was Prog Day '99 during the hurricane.
During the hurricane, we were
Yeah.
indoors at Cat's
We were
Cradle.
inside. That's the Cat's Cradle. Yep. And lastly, an album that's kind of quirky, kind of cool. I know Anthony's going to like this one. Is the Claypool Lennon Delirium.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
They're pretty fun albums. I only have the second one, but it's a pretty cool album.
Cool. Anthony.
Oh, actually, there is one more.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I should have.
Sorry.
Them. That's a good pick, Chad.
Sorry
I
about
love
that.
them. No, I totally
Speed
forgot
and
about
Grease.
them. I spaced out on them.
surprised.
One that Chuck talked about. I'm not a huge Can fan, but Future Day speaks to me because it's very Floydy. This was the one I think I only have in my collection, but this one is just very Floydy. If you're not into the Can that I'm not into, if you're into something with like Floyd vibes, this is perfect because it's kind of dark and spacey. And then another one I'm gonna pick that you guys are all gonna make fun of, but who cares? I'm going with Circa, band with Billy Sherwood and Tony Kaye, Valley of the Windmill, 2016. I think it's fantastic. It's very yes-ish sounding, 4 epic tracks. I like Billy Sherwood. So Circa from 2016.
Ouch.
Oh,
Yeah, can't do that one.
Ouch.
Steven, what do you got, Steven?
There we go. Right. Okay. I've got a few. So I'll start with Cairo. So this is the band that Rob Cottingham is now in. That used to be in Touchstone. He is one of the singers. They've also got a female singer. It's currently Sarah Blaley. I think they're on their 3rd singer already. Excellent, accessible, neoprog, very melodic, quite heavy in places, quite electronic in places, really good. I have got Camellia's Garden. Okay, so this is taking it out of order of what I've actually written down. So You Have a Chance is the name of the album. It's kind of singer-songwriter does symphonic prog. It's really unusual. I was sent this one a few years ago to review on the site. It's really good. Quite an odd album cover as well. It's an unusual listen, but really quite accessible. Carabella Escarlate, symphonic prog.
Very good.
From Brazil, which is really good. I've got Cast from Mexico.
Love
who are
Cast.
also
Cast is
in a
great.
similar sort of vein. But
Un saludo a Alfonso Vidales. That's nice.
there you go. It's an excellent album. Quite a recent discovery for me. They're really good.
They got better.
There it is.
Comus.
Yes, finally.
Who I like a lot, I have to say. I mean, it's all about the debut album, Comus, realistically.
Love him.
First utterance from 1971.
Yes.
The follow-up is not really there. And there was a comeback album out of the Coma in 2012, which was surprisingly decent, actually. But it really is all about first utterance. And it's, if you've never come across Comus, it's, how do you describe it? Acoustic folk.
Infernal folk.
Mhm. It's like dark folk, as they call it.
Well,
Infernal folk.
That was
I love
that was the first freak folk album.
Well, I would say it's like a pagan ritual. Is what's happening here, and as if whatever they're offering up has just been mangled and butchered. It's
You have bands like Espers, that you guys know Espers, and Philly band. Also very much influenced by Comus. So yeah, there's that whole genre of freak folk, and Comus is like
Bizarre. Yeah.
up on the pedestal.
okay.
Lucifer approved. Very nice. Comus.
Never
Chuck
invested any
knows what
further
I'm talking about.
in the genre, but yeah, if it is anybody else as good as that, I should be checking out. Ken.
Check out Espers. They're from Philadelphia. Espers. Very good. Female singer. Really nice.
Okay, so I've also got Cyan. So this is Rob Reed from Magenta, one of his 40,000 side projects. This was actually one of his early bands, and he came back and re-recorded his debut album from 1993 with a little bit of a kind of miniature supergroup. Luke Mashin, Peter Jones, Dan Nelson. This is brilliant. It's really good album. And I've got Kane's Offering, who are a Finnish kind of minor supergroup. Timo Kotipelto from Stratovarius, alongside guys from Sonatic Arctica. It's melodic, it's power metal, but it is progressive. I like that a lot. And the other thing I kind of discovered as I looked through C is there's lots and lots of newer stuff that I really like. Caligonaut, which is really good. Ben Craven, that Ken spoke about recently. The Catch, which is a band that Peter's spoken about recently. This is one I've only just reviewed on the site. This is Alex Carpani, which I really liked. Lots of guys that are on lots of things, David Cross and people that you're seeing on all of these releases at the moment, all the kind of prog, hire them for an album kind of guys. But this is really different. I really like it. It's quite poppy and it's quite interesting. The Siberium, who I've spoken about before, I wanted to show it because I couldn't find the CD at the time. US progressive band. And Cicada. This is Harvest from last year, which I really liked. I was a late discoverer to this. They're Greek, kind of don't be put off by the wacky photographs.
Yeah, that's a good band.
Yeah,
Sort of like a little bit like White Willow.
Yes, absolutely. Really good.
Yeah,
so that's it.
really
I'll
good.
stop talking.
The Siberium are from Chicago.
Yep.
And they just played. They opened for Marillion at one of their weekends. Just recently.
Okay.
Yeah. They're quite good. I'm good friends with their drummer, Tommy Murray.
Yeah,
Really
I'm
good
used to
drummer.
this over the
He plays on a Tool cover band also. Really good guy.
And he's in As You Look Right.
And he, of course, is in a Joe Electra, which, as we'll know, is the Kenneth vehicle.
That's right.
Very good band.
Chuck.
My honorable mentions, Cardiacs, Crack the Sky, early Chicago.
Yeah.
Definitely Chick Corea. You know, I can't tell you how much I miss Chick Corea. He has so many albums, so many of his solo albums. But so that, like I said, being a big jazz fan, I'm also very much a fan of the stuff that he did prior to working with Circle. You know, Circle was was outstanding, but it's not for everyone. It's not your type of jazz that you would put on for your guests. You want to chase them away, probably.
It's very free.
Very free. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are my bands right there. Mm-hmm.
Lewis.
All right. Well, since we already got Comus and Cardiacs, I was going to go with First Utterance and Sing to God. Let me mention two other ones instead. And of course, Chad already mentioned my original Cabeza de Cera. I want to mention a different Chicago band that many people may not know about. This is Cheer Accident.
Yes.
This is, they have many albums. This particular one is Fear Draws Misfortune. I forget what year it came out, but probably 2009 or 10, around that time, this guy. It's impossible to really describe their sound because every time they play live, they're different. When I first saw them live, they were headlining a show in Chicago for Koenji Hyakei as the opener. Koenji were coming to play at Nearfest as a magma-inspired Japanese band of pure mayhem and awesomeness. I'm sure that Pete is already wishing he could have been there to enjoy the Japanese version of Magma. And I was there and I was blown away by Koenji. And then
Also known as the Screaming Yokos.
These dudes show up and they're all dressed like they're, from Arkansas or something. And they're sort of strumming these like banjos and things, and they're just kind of chatting. So it's kind of like a performance comedy. We're gonna fuck with the audience sort of thing, I didn't know anything about them. I thought they sucked. I hated them. Next time I saw them, they opened for Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum, and their act that time was that they were building the stage. And this one guy just started talking and complaining about how much the venue sucked while the other people built it down. and they didn't play a note. So I didn't understand them, and then I heard them finally play. Of all places, I heard them play for the first time a proper show at Orion Studios, and these guys are unbelievable. It's just another one of Cuneiform, Steve Feigenbaum bands, but these guys are great. If you don't know them, every album is different. Tim Jones is the drummer and the pianist, and he's a composer for the band. It's highly original. I would say not for the faint of heart, but this is some good shit. Okay.
Influences, man.
And then another band that hasn't been mentioned that I really, really like is Kevin Moore's Chroma Key. I love everything that guy did once he left Dream Theater. I mean, I was fine with Dream Theater, but I thought it was much better once he left. And starting with Dead Air for Radios, I have liked everything he's done. This particular one, Graveyard Mountain Home, is a personal favorite. It's not for everybody, but I just love his sound designs. Kevin Moore is really good at creating. It's not soundscapes like Fripp. It's just more straightforward sound design, but it's very, very, very atmospheric and cinematographic music. So Chroma Key, Kevin Moore. Those would be my picks for honorables.
You just made Martin Popoff very happy. He loves Chroma Key. All right, let me take a look at my honorables, see what has not been mentioned so far. A lot of them have. So how about the Magna Carta band, Cairo? Quite good. Quite good. Campo de Marte.
There you go.
Right, cool Italian band. How about Carmen?
Oh, that's with John Glasgow playing that flamenco prog. That's right.
And
Really
Mangoes in Space.
Yeah, really good band. I'm amazed nobody mentioned the Cherry Five.
They were on my list, but I pared it down.
Pared it down, yeah. Cherry Five, another great Italian band.
Pre-Goblin.
Yeah. Circus Maximus, prog metal band, one of Ken's old bands. Citizen Kane, if you love classic Peter Gabriel or Genesis, great British band, Citizen Kane. City Boy, I think I heard someone.
I said it.
Yeah, City Boy's great. Yep. Stanley Clark. And I don't think I have two more. Communic, great Norwegian prog metal band. And last but not least, Crimson Glory. American.
We talked about
Yeah, we did. Really cool. The 80s, they came out in the 80s. Their first album is more kind of power metal, but their second album is pretty much very good early prog metal, a la like early Fates Warning or Dream Theater, that sort of thing. So that's all I got.
There was also Capitola 6. You guys know Capitola 6?
Yep. Sida Frontale.
It was kind of like, Cheetah Frontale. Yeah, Capitola 6 was kind of like a Jethro Tull, Italian Jethro. And I had Jose Cid, originally I had Jose Cid on my list from Portugal. That was one of the great Mellotron albums, symphonic prog albums.
Yeah, you sent me that link to listen to not long ago. That was quite good. Yeah, quite good.
Anybody,
You say Mellotron, Ken, reminds me, I got this friend, John. He says, you know how you guys play the job sim game? Everybody drinks? I said, yeah. He says, I play the home game. Anytime anybody on the panel says Mellotron, I drink.
I'm gonna get pretty hammered by the end of the show, right?
Good.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. So yeah, we've just started a new thing now. So from now on all these episodes, every time you guys watching at home, you hear us say Mellotron, grab your drink and down it, right?
All right, we'll have to do that. I came unprepared, but I will drink.
You will happily drink, right, Louis?
Yeah.
Mellotron.
The mighty Mellotron, right? Yes. All right. So there you have it. Another letter of the alphabet in the books, the letter C. So of course, all you folks watching, please list your 3 favorite prog or prog metal or fusion bands that begin with the letter C. And stay tuned next week. Of course, we got the letter D. We'll probably in a couple of weeks, we'll probably take a 1 week break from this to do something else, and then we'll get right back on it. But this topic to take us through probably till, later on in the year. So we've got plenty of stuff coming at you. So thanks for watching, everybody. And do want to say welcome back to the States to Lewis, who's been off
Thank you.
touring all around Central America and whatnot, South America. So he is back. I would say it was a success, right?
It was a great tour. We did really, really well. So I was very, very happy.
Awesome.
It was hard at times, but it was mostly just fucking great fun.
He came back alive. It was successful.
The important.
Yeah. So, it was very good.
And this weekend, a few of us here on the show will be gathering at Mr. Golden's house for some barbecue and discussion and good cheer. So we'll have some stories to tell next week, I'm sure. And if you follow us on Facebook, I'm sure we'll have some pictures and things like that. So
Awesome.
Stay tuned for that and lots more. What do we got? Tomorrow, of course, is What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility Day. So you got some new album reviews coming up tomorrow. And visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together.
All the damn time.
Please make sure you hit that like button before you leave us here on the show. And we also have the links down below to our Ko-Fi page and our merch page, where you can get all sorts of cool shirts like the one Mr. Anthony is wearing right now. Anthony, if you want to, look at that.
They're not the one Chad's wearing?
Not the one Chad's wearing, and we're not cool enough to sell the ones that Chuck is wearing. So but oh man. So thanks for watching, everybody. For Louis Nasser, Chuck Alvarez, Stephen Reed, George Lemay, Chad Hutchinson, Anthony Ferraro, Eric Porter, and Ken Golden. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you next week on the letter D here on the Prog Seat. Take care.
Right.
Mellotron.
That's right.